Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 1 of the Everyday Podcast, aka EDP. I am your host, Matt Esposito, and I'm going to let our wonderful co-host introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. My name's Andrew Sadikov, and I am the co-host for the Everyday Podcast.
So, long time in the making. We have been designing and crafting this podcast for a long time. I guess we'll start with a little bit. We'll answer the who, what, when, why, are, all those questions to start. So who are we? Well, I am the CEO and founder of Everyday Expo, also the president of Everyday Studios. Those two companies are what make up the Everyday brand, and I'll let Andrew introduce himself in terms of ED and EDS.
So I am the Chief Operating Officer of Everyday Expo, and I'm also a multimedia specialist in Everyday Studios.
So I guess let's dive into what is the Everyday brand. So Everyday Expo is a full-service multimedia marketing agency. We provide various creative, digital, and traditional marketing services like web design, social media work, photo and video, graphic design, SEO, basically everything across the board. And we have a team of 12. We are headquartered in Eatontown, New Jersey, but provide services on a national scale. Moving on to EDS, Everyday Studios, the second company in the Everyday brand. That is mainly just a photo and video company for weddings, proms, graduations, basically, anything that's within the personal markets. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that about the Everyday brand.
No, I think that's perfect. We cover a wide variety of different scopes and markets and everything.
As you can tell, we're a little bit nervous, but we planned everything out. Hopefully this goes well. We're hoping everyone likes the content and likes the direction it's going in. We already have what we want to do in terms of how many episodes a season and all this stuff, but we're going to work things out as we go. We'll get different segment names and all this cool animations and graphics, but it's a work in progress, so stick with us. I guess let's move on to why we created EDP. I don't know if you want to start or if you want me to start on that topic.
So we were actually very blessed when we moved into our office here in this building to be right next door to the Shared Universe podcast studio. In fact, they were probably the only people who were staying until 1, 2, 3 in the morning, working the same kind of late hours that we were. So we got very close to them through that as well. And we saw the work that they kind of did and the services that they offered, and vice versa. They saw us, and we decided that, working together would be great. And from there, everything kind of started to grow. And a little bit of background on that. So the office building that we're in over in Eatontown, I used to work at another company in this building before I founded EDE. Advocates, great team. I love them to death. They actually have their own podcast too called The Influential, so go check them out. We've had our own office here for about a year and a half. And when I was working at the other company, Advocates, that's how we learned about the podcast studio, and that's how I ended up getting an office here too. So, we've been talking about doing a podcast for probably 18 months now. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And we finally built up, I don't know, what do you want to call it, the time, the courage, who even knows?
The time and resources to be able to get it to work.
Because we didn't want to just start, the podcast. We wanted to plan things out. We wanted to do some high quality content, have, some cool guests on here, and create a really educational and informative platform for, our viewers.
Right.
And also, just so you guys know, we are using the camera equipment. Some of you may be only listening to the audio, but we wanted to kind of show off our camera skills, and we wanted people to be able to see us person to person, which is why we're also going to be posting these podcasts on YouTube. So if you're listening to the audio, feel free to also check out the video version of these podcasts. I guess moving on to our goals for the Everyday Podcast. So we wrote down a couple notes here. We have educate, inform, inspire, and entertain. We're not here to create a very serious podcast. We want to, also have some comedy involved here. We have some great stories to tell. I think the journey that we've taken as young entrepreneurs is also going to be very exciting to tell and also interact with people that want to learn more about it, because it won't be just limited to this podcast. If people comment and all this other stuff, reach out to us, we'll love to discuss with them on any topics that we talk here on the podcast about, and even have them on the podcast. We're pretty much open to anything. Like I said, we're still kind of playing this by ear, trying a couple pilot episodes and kind of taking it from there. You want to move on to, or you talk a little bit about our goals?
So Of course, it's very, community centric, like Matt had just mentioned. But for one thing, we want to educate people, and not necessarily in teaching them textbook, outlines of the specific topics we're discussing, but more so to share our journey and how, their journey can be similar to ours. Anything that they can learn from us is going to help them a lot, on their own. There's many different people that we talk to and many different things that we learned and, that helped us out and avoid, making some mistakes that people were making. The other thing is most certainly, inform kind of goes hand in hand with that, but to inspire people. There's a lot of hard work associated with any startup brand, but it doesn't mean that it has to be a miserable process. There are certain days when coming into the office, I'm so excited to go shoot something or to play with some, fancy equipment and everything else. So definitely wanted to inspire people to go pursue, whatever it is that they might be on the fence about, or maybe just feeling like they're not too confident in at the moment.
And we're not just going to be talking about the companies, we're going to be talking about life in general. We'll be sharing some cool stories. One today that's pretty funny too. I think everyone will get a kick out of it. One that not that many people know. But we'll be talking about marketing, entrepreneurship, business, and like I said, life in general. And we're open to adding anything or any suggestions that anyone has. We're open to. Anything else to add to our goals? Really just to create a platform for people. We since we are good friends with the team here, Mike and Ming, they run a great place, a shared universe, as Andrew mentioned before. We're exposed to the other podcasts that come in here. And, we wanted to create a little bit of a different environment for people, go about it a little bit differently, and see if we could take it anywhere.
Right, exactly. And the other thing I want to mention real quick is that we're not really here to show off or anything like that. Again, that's something that we could do, but this isn't the point of this podcast and the point of anything that we do in the company. It really is to try and, keep everybody in the same community and keep everybody helping each other out. So never feel like you are below anybody else in general. Always feel that everything is very, intertwined and that everybody can always work with anybody, regardless of whether, you've been around for 10 years or you're just starting your company now. I think in general, kind of the area that we're in, at least the industry that we've been in, we found that people are very open to partnerships. There are people that have been around for a lot longer than we were that have helped us out, and there are companies that we help out, in different situations. So definitely keep that in mind.
And also I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Joe Basile. He is one of our business development specialists at ED and also EDS. He's working all the sound engineering and all that stuff. You're going to see him on a lot of future episodes, and we're excited to see what he brings to the table. So we just wanted to give him a shout out. You have anything to add to that, or pretty straightforward?
Yeah, that's pretty straightforward.
Also, we've met a lot of really cool people throughout our time in the business world, and we hope to bring some of those people here, whether that's on the phone or in person. Anyone that is capable of traveling here, because I think that's going to be a big part of it, is not only hearing our story but hearing other people's stories and getting inspiration from that too. All right, next up, I think what we had discussed before was to give a little bit of a mini outline for what we want to do for season 1 of EDP. So what we have planned is to do 12 episodes. We're hoping to do about a half an hour to an hour each. If it doesn't go that long, it doesn't go that long. We're just kind of going with the flow. We thought we'd give you a couple of examples of future episodes coming up, a little bit of a sneak peek. So we have how to run a startup, let's talk sales, startup oops, we learned the hard way, and entrepreneurship, our journey could be yours. So that's a little bit of a sneak peek to what's coming up. Like I said, we're not really going to be sticking to just one topic, and every episode will kind of fluctuate from there. I don't know if you have anything to add to that outline.
Right, exactly. The first episode is very kind of formal, at least so far, until we get to our story. But not every episode is going to be like that. It's going to be a lot more free-flowing, once we kind of get used to the equipment we're working with and kind of the stage that we've set for ourselves and everything else. Definitely be prepared for some interesting things.
And I think, let's dive into a little bit more about EDE and EDS before continuing, then we'll kind of get to our story. So talking about EDE, like I said, we're a multimedia marketing agency. There is 14 of us now total.
Right, yep.
Yeah. Can't keep track anymore. We keep growing. Anyways, we have such an amazing team. They're not just from New Jersey either, and our ages really vary from pretty young to pretty up there. Don't want to say
right.
old. That's has a negative connotation to it. But anyways, so, like we said, we provide various marketing services. We also don't limit ourselves to one vertical for either company. So we work with, car dealerships, real estate agencies. Every day in our lives is fairly different, and not just for us, for all of our team members too. And me and Andrew do want to give a quick shout out to both teams, both ED and EDS. We honestly have the most amazing team supporting us on a daily basis, and we would be nowhere without them. And their continued support, hard work, and dedication goes unmatched. And, you know, we're so just excited every day we wake up. You know, it's our biggest passion is running these companies, and just such a great team. And I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I definitely wanted to include that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Again, you know, that's my favorite part of our entire process. It's definitely been the people that we work with and the people that we meet. By far, you know, if that's not your thing, then maybe business in general might not be your thing if you just hate people. But you know, that's definitely not us.
Yeah. All right. The next thing we have up, just to kind of cut up the episode a little bit, is we thought we would tell you guys how me and Andrew met.
Oh boy.
So it's a pretty funny story, and it dates back, like 7 years ago, I think?
It was a while,
6 or 7 years ago,
Yep.
all the way back in high school. So Andrew was a grade below me. We didn't really know each other that well, but my friend at the time was holding a quinceañera, and me and Andrew were both escorts in the quinceañera. And funny enough, the person running, or what's the name for the girl in the quinceañera? There's a name for it. I forget. Well, anyways, the girl whose birthday it was actually my girlfriend at the time, or I'm not sure if I was dating her during the time we were practicing for the quinceañera. But the story goes that Andrew actually liked her too.
Right.
And it was pretty funny. Things didn't kind of end well. There was just this whole situation. Me and Andrew actually didn't really talk for like 2 years. Not that we like had a hatred for each other or anything like that. We just didn't talk for about 2 years. And after the 2 years went up, Andrew, I know you said you saw one of my job posts on Snapchat or something like that.
Yeah, so I came from having absolutely no idea who Matt was, you know, to meeting him, you know, through this girl. Again, I kind of liked her. I guess you guys had just broken up. I think that was it. So it was just an awkward time for everybody, but I ended up actually distancing myself from the entire situation, you know, and through some faults of my own too. And again, like you said, didn't talk to you for a while, didn't, you know, nothing against you, but just had no reason to, didn't really have any similar, you know, groups or interests. And I was sitting on Snapchat one day, and Matt had posted, you know, if anybody's interested in a part-time job, you know, doing a little bit of like film and video stuff, or has any skills that they could offer to the table, you know, reach out to me, something like that. And I thought about it. And at the time I had actually worked for a startup with one of my friends, and I knew how difficult it was. And I pretty explicitly told myself that I wasn't going to reach out. I wasn't going to say anything, even though I had, you know, I had skills in those specific fields. I just didn't want to go back into that. It was incredibly difficult. But I ended up reaching out regardless, wanting to see what they were about and how they were handling things, and if there was anything I could do to help them, you know, why not, right? And from there, you know, it grew into an amazing relationship. Matt is an incredibly hardworking person, and also an incredibly loyal person. So any kind of bad, you know, associations with business that I had before disappeared. You know, when I met him, I met the rest of the team, and the rest is history.
And you know, I say it a lot, but everything happens for a reason, and it's kind of funny. The story of how we met and how it went down, and you know, now he's my right-hand man. I mean, we pretty much spend every day together,
right?
Probably more so than we do with our own families and friends combined. And it's been like that for the past 2 years, and I don't know about you, but I wouldn't change a thing about the way things have gone so far.
No, absolutely.
So that's kind of the story, and you know, Joe's got a smile on his face over here because we never told that story publicly or really to any employee or staff member, team member, or even some of our close friends. I don't even think know about
honestly,
that story.
It's pretty private.
So we thought it'd kind of break the ice, and you know, we were debating telling it too, but we were like, you know what, we want a platform where we can speak our minds and speak
we wanted to show
truth.
some of our personalities to, you know, kind of get it through there, especially for the first episode, you know.
Which I think it'll take time, but I think once we settle in and kind of get down pat what we want to do, I think that'll only continue to further. But all right, moving on. So we wanted to talk a little bit about some insight into our daily lives. So obviously we are pretty young, you know, young entrepreneurs. I'm going to let Andrew talk a little bit first. Now, just as a little side note for all the viewers, so EDE has been running for 2 years. We actually just hit our 2-year anniversary. Happy anniversary, EDE, on June 25th. For EDS, we're actually currently in the launching stage for it. We have our team formed and everything like that, but we're still in like the final stages of getting the company together. Obviously, due to the global pandemic, things kind of got a little bit messed up. We were supposed to fully launch this summer, but we do refer to it as, a launch startup, a launch company, since it is basically just, a branch of EDE. So if you want to give a little bit of insight into like our daily lives, you can start with just EDE first, and tell them a little bit about what you do on a daily basis.
Right.
Go from there.
So I'm the chief operating officer. I kind of tend to oversee a lot of the stuff that goes on in the company. Matt's biggest power is definitely his business side and his people skills, whereas my biggest power is, I'm a very technological person. So every single day you see me messing around with the equipment, and it probably annoys the rest of the employees, but, making sure that everything's on check. I'm checking every lens. I'm updating the firmware on cameras, and, everything and anything that I can think of, I try and do. Usually wake up in the morning for myself and check to see the calendar to see what's going on that day for any shoots, if there's anybody that might need my help, or if there's anything that I can be a part of, just for my own kind of, advancement. And from there I head up to the office. Usually I meet Joe and I meet Matt pretty quickly there. Most of the time Joe and Matt are in before me actually, but it varies. And my main role currently in the company is a web developer. So this was kind of a passion that I had starting young, honestly very, very young, before even WordPress was as big as it is now, which actually wasn't as long ago as people might think. Now it's the biggest content management, system out there. But starting around with just some basic web development, not realistically coding, but just understanding, what a website is, how it works, different links, images, kind of the design aspects of everything. And from there kind of moving my way up. So besides my kind of a little bit of filming experience that I had with another startup before Everyday Expo, I also had some web development stuff that I did on the side and was able to bring that kind of into the company. And from there grew a very, very powerful web development team. The rest of the web developers with far more experience actually than myself, which is always great because I can learn so much from those guys. And obviously we can take on much bigger projects than I'd be able to handle single-handedly. But yeah, it's actually a very big aspect of everything that's going on now with the global pandemic and everything. A lot of businesses will be able to survive by transferring themselves into online platforms. So our web dev team has been working very hard, to make that happen. And that's currently my biggest project. The biggest thing that I oversee is trying to make that as smooth as possible for everybody.
Especially with the pandemic, the web development department, which, by the way, you'll be meeting the other team members too, one by one. We don't want to show all of our cards in one night. All of our secret weapons in one night. But the web development team is something that has really grown, especially during the pandemic. I was afraid in the beginning that business would be shut down completely, but we got really lucky that we were able to operate at some capacity, and that some of our clients were also able to operate at some capacity, allowing us to be able to do our jobs. I guess moving on to a day in the life for me, I guess more like Andrew, it varies. It's extremely different each and every day. Usually, I think you mentioned this before, me and Ming are usually the last ones at the office. Sometimes it could be anywhere from midnight to 2 a.m. There's only our 2 cars in the parking lot, the only 2 crazy heads to be here that late. So my day usually starts a little bit later. Usually, sometimes I'll decide to start working at home. Sometimes it's a better environment for me, and sometimes it's not. Depends on what's going on that day. I love to visit shoots, so if there's a shoot that day, and I'll be there. I'll be visiting the client. I want to be the face of the business, and I want to get out there and show people. I want to have that personal, relationship with our clients, which we're also going to talk about too. That's a big part of what we do, is how close we are with our clients. Our clients are pretty much our family. So, like I said, day in the life varies. Since we are still a startup, I deal with all the accounting and, I guess the tedious side of the business. So that does take up a big part of my day. But for me, even when I'm not working, I'm working. I'm always thinking of ideas and stuff to bounce off of Andrew and other team members to kind of take us to the next level for both companies, And once I get in the office, we have a fairly small office right now, but we're going to be moving soon. Kind of just needed a space to, I guess, get ourselves started. We were
very blessed when we first got it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
no, absolutely. I mean, we still are. There are companies that still can't even afford to pay rent or this and that, So we're very lucky with what we have. But anyways, day in the life, very, very different each day, but I really wouldn't trade it for anything. Like I was saying, when I come to the office, I love interacting with the team. I love the environment, and everyone's in and out. Some people work remotely. They have the decision to do so, but surprisingly, a lot of the team members choose to work, in the office, which we kind of love. We love bouncing those creative ideas off, and that's only going to continue as we start to get a larger office space that allows for more creativity and more collaboration. You have anything to add to insight into our daily lives?
Right, not really.
It's a lot of hard work, and like Andrew said, we're not here to brag or show off or anything like that, but we do want to tell our stories. People always tell us to, like, people listen to you, they need to hear what you're doing, they need to hear what's going on, yada yada yada. So like Andrew said, don't think we're showing off or any of that. We want to tell our story accurately, because the world of entrepreneurship is sometimes not what you perceive through the internet or Gary V's LinkedIn account.
Right, exactly.
But and we're excited to tell our journeys, because it's not only are we going to talk about the past and what we've had to do to get where we are, we're going to talk about what's currently going on and what we continue to learn, because each day we're learning 100 new things. And that's really what drives our passion, is just being able to experience all this. We've met so many cool people. Like I said, we hope to bring on the podcast, but we absolutely love what we do. We wouldn't trade it for anything. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I think we can move on to the next segment.
So we wrote down that we were going to do like a story or like a lesson of the week. I guess mine is, don't be over-prepared.
Right.
We really sat down and we were nervous about this podcast. We were like, one, what if no one watches it? What if no one listens to it? Are we going to screw up? Are we going to be nervous? But at the end of the day, we realized, and coming in here and sitting down, we're just gonna speak our minds. We want to be comfortable. It's like just having a conversation, and that's what I told them too. And even for us, it's gonna take some getting used to. I'm usually not the one in front of the camera. Usually I'm watching the people that are in front of the camera. So I guess my story lesson of the week is there's no need to really over prepare. Things are going to work out, and I guess that kind of goes to show with this episode. I've looked at the time, and here we are half an hour later, and we're already like 75% down the episode 1 topic sheet. So yeah.
Right.
If you want to give your story or lesson.
I've got one too. So, the fact that you're hearing this and seeing this is proof that mine worked out. But the biggest thing when you're getting started with anything, and it was so difficult for me to learn this, especially, from a tech perspective, there's so many different things that you can learn every day. Say you go out and you buy your first camera. Every single day you go out there, you're going to shoot a little bit better than you did before. And the biggest thing is you have to go with what you have, and you have to get started, and you have to post the content that you're making. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be amazing right off the bat. You're going to be able to beat it almost immediately, but you still have to go out there and you have to post it. That's how you get into anything. There are so many creative people who are just afraid. The world has shut them down, told them, hey, listen, if you're not, top 10 best photographers, nobody's going to know your name. Well, to get there, you got to start with the images that you have now and the content that you're producing now. So for anybody out there who's, on the fence about anything, go and do it. 100%, 10% go and do it,
And it's funny because that's what we struggle with the most. We always talk about creating a YouTube channel with all this content. Of course, our time is very limited.
Right.
And we hope to, change that in the future. But that's something we struggle with, not just on an individual level, but as a company. There's this saying, and pretty much everyone in the company knows it too, like, about how we're a marketing agency, right? We know how to market people. We know how to bring in business and take your business to the next level. Well, we struggle with that ourselves. We struggle to keep that up, and that's something, we admit point blank, and we're getting better at it. And hence the podcast. That's something we've wanted to do for a long, long time. Like I said, close to a year and a half. And the fact that we're here sitting down, starting it, is proof that we're, taking care of our own faults of our own.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, you have anything to add to that?
No, not really, but just, to go out and do whatever you want to do.
You have to start somewhere.
Right.
And that's what we want to, also kind of show people with this podcast. Like, we had to start somewhere, right? And for us, we realize this on a daily basis. A good percentage of the population out there can be doing what we're doing, or to some extent.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
It just takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and of course, I think luck plays a big factor into it.
Right.
Not that that's a measurable, thing.
Quality, yeah.
But, yeah. So I guess the next thing, we'll talk about a little bit of a sneak peek of the second episode. And I can tell this is, I don't know how long that we've been talking for, probably like half an hour, but we're going to try and make the other episodes a little bit longer. This is kind of just the introduction, get to know us, like I said, who we are, what all about the company and stuff like that. But getting into episode 2, that's going to be titled Being a CEO at 20 and a COO at 19. Now, we're not 20 and 19 anymore.
Not anymore now.
We were at some point. And we want to kind of give, the whole point of the episode is we're going to talk about what it's like to lead a team at such a young age. We're going to talk about everything from A to Z, things we've screwed up on, things we've done right, things we had wished we had known back when we started, because hopefully there is someone out there that's going to continue along their journey. It doesn't have to be in the marketing world, that can take our experiences and our advice and help them in their journey. I don't know if you have anything to add to a sneak peek of that episode.
No, but that's definitely going to give you another dive kind of into the more personal side of things. A bit of a deeper look on what it really is like. How Matt had mentioned before, there's a very big cognitive dissonance between what you see online and the actual world of entrepreneurship if you were to get started. You see all these very high energy guys talking about, go out there and make this amazing idea of yours great and do all these amazing things. But in reality, it's not that easy getting started, It could be one video a month,
And we strategically placed this episode at number 2. We really wanted to get this, not really out of the way, but this is what we thought was the most important topic to us, diving into our journey and our experiences as a whole, because we think that's what is going to drive this podcast, moving forward. So I guess moving on from the sneak peek, I wanted to give a couple of shout outs. So I know I mentioned Mr. Joe Basile, who is our sound engineer, and soundboard whiz man, whatever you want to call it. He has his own podcast called Food for Thought, so feel free to check that out. We'll have a couple links on our website, which is in the making currently. And we also wanted to give a shout out to A Shared Universe, Mike and Ming, their team here. They're great. Christian, it's such a great environment to come in here. They make it as comfortable and easy as possible. And we've known them for a long time. We come in here to just sit down and talk with them. They're great people, and they run a great business, and we're so happy now to be a part of it. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I think that's perfect. Exactly.
Next up, just go over our contact information. So like I said, ways to check us out. So we're posting every podcast on YouTube, and we're also have a SoundCloud account, so that'll blast to like Pandora, Apple Podcasts, everything like that. And we're also building a website. Like I said, it's going to be like a 1 or 2, page site, but you'll be able to download both the video and the audio file from there to listen. The link for that is everydaypodcast.biz, B-I-Z. The .com one was either taken or like $20,000. So
it was like $20,000.
Maybe when we're sponsored by, Nike, maybe we'll look into getting that domain. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Those will be the 2 main social media profiles. The Facebook is Everyday Podcast FB, and then the Instagram is Everyday Podcast IG. We also do have a LinkedIn, and our email is info@everydaypodcast.biz. And we also have links to, all the companies within the Everyday brand on the site too. So feel free to check out anything to do with EDE or EDS. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I think that's perfect. Exactly. We're all very interconnected as far as our brands go. So it's very easy to go from one to the other. You're going to see the same faces. You're going to see, the same kind of level of dedication, across the board.
And we're really excited for this podcast. We think we have a lot to offer to the outside world. Not just advice, but like I said, bringing other people on, because that's what's made our journey. That's what drives our passion is meeting these cool people and them to share their experiences too.
Right.
So I think that pretty much wraps it up for episode 1. Feel free to let us know how we did in the comments. If you have any suggestions, not that, it was just an intro episode, but if you have any suggestions for episodes, what type of content you guys want to see moving forward, and like I said, feel free to check us out on social, and also check out, any of the company's websites or any of that information. And I think that's pretty much it. Andrew, you have anything to add?
No, that's perfect, I think. All
right. So thanks everyone for tuning in to Everyday Podcast, episode 1. We'll see you next time.